properties. Once all the refurbishments were complete, it's about 3.3 million. Initial purchase price for all the properties 1.95 million or thereabouts. You know, lots of people have the money in the bank and you can help them get a return. So you're not doing it to brag. You're showing people what you do. So potentially you can help them as well. I think the rentals for like this room where the photo was probably something like 375, maybe 400 a month.
Yeah. So
I think, you know, once we did this refurbishment, you know, it's now 525, 550 sort of range.
I'm going to ask my first guest to come and join me on stage, and you can hear about his inspirational story. So obviously we're recording this, but you might want to put your hands up and wave and just welcome to the stage, Timothy Witt. Welcome, Timothy. How are you?
Good.
Please have a seat. I'll give you the control. So we've got some slides that you can run through. But before we do that, I think it's on some of your slides actually. I would just love to understand a bit more about you. So what you do for a living, a bit about you as Timothy as the person.
Yeah, no worries. So I live in Manchester, from Australia originally.
We can tell by the accent. There's not a Manchester accent, is it?
Not a Manchester accent, no. So I still sort of call Australia home, even though I've been in Manchester for 7 years of the UK. But so I'm married to Amy, wife Amy, got a 7-month-old daughter. So my background though is I've worked as a construction manager, project manager basically. So yeah, building projects and refurbishments and things like that. So
and you've done some pretty big projects, right? Big
projects, yeah. So yeah, I started off working for a contractor in Australia, so I was a project manager for a contract for 8 years, and then when I moved to the UK, I started working for a consultancy firm and a developer basically. So I've done sort of big high-rise, but I just finished a big 35-storey tower in London as well.
Wow.
As part of my job.
What's the value of that problem?
180 million pounds.
180 million. So you've done huge projects.
Yeah.
Now, so one would think you know a lot about building, obviously.
Yeah.
And you know a lot about property, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But that was your career. And we meet a lot of people who are in the property industry. They might be project manager, they might be a conveyancing solicitor, they might be a mortgage broker, but sometimes they don't actually have their own property. So what about your own property journey? And did you have any property experience? Or
I had, like you said, I was working for a company, so I was managing projects to make sure they got finished as a job. So it's slightly different to investing in yourself and your own properties, but I did start doing some sort of smallish refurbishments on, you know, of my own projects.
Yes.
You know, a couple of years ago type thing. So I did a few little small buy-to-lets for my own money.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to get to the next level, basically.
Okay. So obviously you came and did our training, our Mastermind Accelerator 3-day course.
Yeah.
Why did you come and do that?
I think because I got to a point where I could do some refurbishments, manage projects with my own money, but I didn't quite know how to get to that next level of, you know, building a portfolio that could replace my, you know, my salary basically. So I thought, you know, obviously you're the man that can show me how to do it. So I just, and to be honest, I joined it during lockdown and I just thought, all right, I can't do anything else.
So you might use the time to learn.
Yeah, let's use that time to learn and give it a go and see what Simon says, because I did read your book before that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
great.
Yeah.
And a lot of people use that lockdown time to upskill because they say, well, hang on, what I'm doing now isn't necessarily going to be valid for the future. It was a really good time to learn. So, so well done for doing that. And so the key for you mentioned obviously that, and this is right for many people, I think, that, you know, you were doing some project, but I guess you recognized that at some point you would run out of your own money.
Yeah.
And you didn't know how to get that to the next level.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And then so obviously you decided to come on MMA and obviously enjoy that because you then came on our mastermind, but we'll talk about what you did. We'll look at some of your deals as well in a moment. Yeah. But what was it specifically at Mastermind Accelerator, our 3-day course, that really got the change for you?
I think it was I suppose the mindset boost and the sort of confidence boost I got from it. You know, shifting your thinking a bit to going, there's actually more creative ways of doing things. You know, I was doing buy, refurbish, refinance, but I still am, but I'm going about it in more creative ways. I can talk to other people for investment, things like that. It's just opening your mind up a bit. And I thought, you know, with that knowledge and that expertise, and then working with, you know, group of people in a supportive environment, I think it could make a difference, and ultimately it did.
It did, didn't it? So look, let's talk about some of the deals you've done, if that's okay. I think we've got some slides on these.
Yeah,
so just talk us through some of the deals, if you can.
Yeah, so, you know, my strategy, like I said, buy, refurbish, refinance, or flip, basically. So I like to add an F on the end because I'm trying to do a bit of a balance of both.
Yeah, and I suppose the benefit of flipping is that gives you, so just to make sure everyone's really clear, we're not going to teach strategies, but to make sure everyone's clear with the terminology, there's a BRRR, so you buy something that needs some work doing to it, so you refurbish it, you've increased the value so you can then remortgage, raise the finance on it to take out the deposit and the money you put in. And sometimes you can get all the money out, but sometimes you can't. And I think a mistake people make is they think, I can't get all my money, that's not a good project. And I think that's a mistake personally.
It is, yeah, because you've got to look at return on investment. If it's giving a good return, you know, even if you have some money tied into it, I think it's still a good deal.
So there could be some money left in, but as you say, if it's getting a good return, it doesn't have to be your money, does it?
No.
It could be borrowed from someone else, and they're happy because they're making money. They might be happy for a 3 to 5 year loan, and then by that time the market might have gone up enough to refinance and pay them back anyway. So again, it's just thinking in a different way, isn't it?
Absolutely, right? Yes, if you're getting a good return, you can get return to yourself and, you know, other people you know, with their money. I think it's a win-win, really. I
think the key there is finding great deals, though, isn't it? Because if you've got a profitable deal, as you quite rightly said, there's profit for you and for someone else. Yeah. It's
either got to be profitable or it's got to have a good return to be able to, you know, draw in the funds or be able to use those funds to pay the interest on it.
And we'll get into the case studies in just a moment, but I guess there are a number of different ways you can work with other people's money. You can do private loans where you give them the fixed rate of return. You can do joint ventures where they've got a share of the profit. Which one have you favoured, or have you done both? Or
I've done a combination of both.
Okay.
So I've done joint ventures with people that, you know, I thought we had complementing skill set.
Yes, so it's not just about the money then, it's about they bring something else to the...
Because we've done some, you know, bigger-ish projects where we've done commercial conversions and things like that, so you need a bit of a bigger team. So sometimes if you've got someone with complementing skills, that can help a bit, and it helps work together, and, you know, property can be lonely, so it's good to work together. But also I've done other things where it's been a straight loan. But also I do, you know, a bit of a lend and learn program where I take people through the journey of the property project, and I pay in return to their money that they lend for my projects, and then I pay them back at the end of the period as well. So and a combination of those things.
A lot of our mastermind students do that. So just make sure you haven't got that. You get someone to lend you money, and then they kind of look over your shoulder and as you go along. So and actually sometimes people say, well, it's great to get a return on the money, but the learning they get from that is far more valuable.
That's more valuable,
than the interest they make, because they can then go and do their own projects.
They're still getting paid, you know, they're getting paid as well. So
it's they're getting paid to learn. That's a great result. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's talk about some of the deals here, because these are really quite amazing deals. So go for it.
Yeah. So this first one was a property flip deal, but obviously my mastermind year, like you said, I was trying to replace my income, so it's unusual I'm doing this as the first, but where this was beneficial is that I could use a loan from a family member to buy this and then create some profit quite quickly, which I could then use to finance the year. So it was cash loan purchase from a family member, really quick sale from an agent that I had a good relationship with. We agreed a price, £103,000 for it. It was a 3-bed semi-detached with a loft conversion, so it was a decent sized property.
Yeah, that's cheap. Where was this?
In St Helens.
Okay, right,
Yeah, in the northwest. So the top photo there shows the sort of roughly what the condition was before, and the bottom shows, you know, after the refurbishment. So it was a nice...
It's unrecognisable, isn't it?
Yeah.
You would say that can't be the same property, right?
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same room. So so you know, refurbishment. It was a cosmetic refurbishment. The property was in quite, you know, good structural condition, everything like that, but it was a cosmetic refurb, £12,000. You know, it took 5 weeks from a builder that was, you know, trusted with me, that, you know, does a lot of these sort of projects for me.
Yeah. So that's, how much was that again?
£12,000.
So interestingly, sometimes you don't need to spend a lot if you know what you're doing to get a really great result.
Yeah, the key is knowing the scope of works, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it looks bad, but, you know, the central heating was quite good, the windows were quite good, so you can spend money on the areas that add value sometimes.
Yes, like the kitchens and bathrooms and the decor. And
the decor, definitely kitchens, bathrooms obviously add value and things like that.
Yeah. Guys, I hope you're listening and writing these down. These are really amazing tips that Tim's sharing with you.
Yeah, because of my project management, I always knew like how to put a scope of works together for a project and stuff like that. And I think that is key sometimes to knowing what you can and can't spend.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you've helped quite a few people in the mastermind group who don't have that experience, and that's excuse me, one of the things about mastermind is actually helping each other, right?
Yeah, and then I get help with other things that aren't my expertise and things like that. So, it's a good environment to be in to share knowledge.
Great. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, so the sale price ended up being 156,500 on that one. I think it went to a first-time buyer, but so profit about 35,000. So I then used, obviously, the cash loan that I got to buy it plus the profit.
Yes.
So it helped, get quite a bit of funds in place to then be able to use for the mastermind year, basically.
Fantastic. Great.
So my next deal, so I learnt on MMA actually about landlord letters. So I started off because I wanted to buy some HMOs to build in some cash flow, basically, because I've had a few single lets, but the cash flow wasn't necessarily as high as it could be. So to build it quicker, I was looking at HMOs. So I got this deal indirectly through a landlord letter because I was looking at a property which I didn't end up getting, which was through a letter, and the estate agent that was the letting agent for that property said, actually, I've got probably a better one in a better location.
Oh, okay.
Owner lives in Italy. She wants to sell. She wasn't getting landlord letters because it was unlicensed, because basically she got sort of ripped off by a builder that did the works, and the rooms weren't the right size, and she never got licensed because of it. And one of the rooms she couldn't even let out because it was undersized. So basically, this is where the scope of works comes in handy. So I went there, assessed the property, worked out what was needed to get 5 beds in it and licensed, and did the conversion. So we end up converting it from a 4-bed unlicensed HMO, which was fairly poor quality. I don't have a before photo, but it was average quality. And then convert it to 5 bedrooms, 5 en suites, decent quality in a good location. So one of the things I just want to acknowledge, recognise here, 2 things. First of all,
we talk a lot about landlord letters, and I think a lot of people have this misconception that everybody does landlord letters. Well, they don't, because a lot of people fail to take action. Even if we say, look, landlord is the best thing to do, so many people just won't do it because, that's some time and effort to do it. So that's the first thing. Secondly, you need to learn how to do these things correctly. If you send one letter, it's probably not going to work. You need to send it to all the landlords, keep doing it, etc. And then also, HMOs, there are a massive number of HMOs. In fact, there's probably an oversupply in most areas, I'm sure you would agree, right?
Yeah.
But what we teach is to have HMOs, high-end HMOs that look fantastic. You're going to get a much higher rent from these. You'll have a lower void period. And so there's not as much competition at the high end. It's at the average level, they compete on price, but that's not the case with this kind of property, is it?
No. So, this area does have a lot of HMOs. It is a good area for HMOs, which is probably why there's so many. But, before the refurbishment, it was average. They didn't do good photos. They didn't dress it up nicely, those sort of things. So I think the rentals for like this room where the photo was probably something like 375, maybe 400 a month. So I think, once we did this refurbishment, it's now 525, 550 sort of range.
That's a massive uplift, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great.
Just purely doing those sort of things. So like I said, tired landlord, living in Italy, wanted to sell, unlicensed because it was undersized. She wanted 160. There wasn't much science behind it, but that's just what she wanted. So we stacked the numbers, and with the refurbishment and the scope of works, it would stack up basically.
And sorry, I keep on interrupting, but I just want to. There were so many golden nuggets. I want to make sure everyone gets these. She wanted 160. And sometimes people think you have to negotiate down, but if it works at the numbers they want, it works, right?
Yeah, and the agent actually said, look, she's quite stubborn because someone offered 157 and she just wouldn't go with it. And then he couldn't believe it because she was annoyed that, she still had this property type thing. But he just said, look, she will take 160. So if that works for you, there's no point trying to negotiate because she wouldn't take 157, a month ago or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a useful insight from the agent, isn't it? Yeah. Great.
Yeah, so refurbishment costs were bit over 22,000 to do the works we laid out, then plus the furniture and fixtures, to dress the rooms and the kitchens and all these sort of things, was about 8,000. We actually did a nice outdoor area at the back with some decking and outdoor tables and comfort areas and stuff like that, which...
It's a really important point, isn't it? It's not just in the house, especially the idea of co-living is that you want spaces that people can live and eat dinner together and just chill out together. So that outdoor space is often neglected by most landlords.
So I think that adds a bit of value as well, because it was just overgrown, neglected, and once it was cleared out and made nice, I think it made a big difference.
Absolutely.
Out in the backyard. So gross rent's about $2,700 a month now for the 5 bedrooms. Like I said, 525, 550 a month now.
Yeah.
They're all let out now. So the valuation post works are $250,000, which has now been verified by the lender as well. So we've got that on the refinance. So like I said, I bought this with joint venture partners that I actually met in Mastermind. So we had a certain split of what they were putting in and I was doing for it and things like that. So, and we just got along. We just got along really well and had skills that work. So we went in on this one together.
Fantastic.
So my return investment for the funds that I put in, or the money left in, so I have £6,700 left in roughly on the refinance, but that gives a return of investment of 50-50 of that income at 107%.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
Like you
so
said
you're going to
before,
get all your money back in a year.
Yeah. All the money back. Like you said before, you can leave a little bit in and still be a good deal, and this is probably a good example of that. Yeah, so my cash flow per month share of that is about $572 a month.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For that.
Great example. Great.
So next one, we started, I started to look at more commercial properties because there was a lot of competition for the residential stuff. It was getting more difficult to find deals. Not impossible.
Especially with the booming prices and everything.
The booming prices were coming. But I also found, obviously, in the high street that, there's a lot of more empty properties. There were sort of upper levels of commercial properties that were being just basically not used, and the landlords were getting annoyed because they weren't getting the rents thereafter. Yeah. So I just looked at properties that you could sort of convert the upper floors to either flats or HMO, keep maybe the ground floor commercial units because they're the, we'll get the highest rent basically because they're on the street front. So this was with a joint venture partner as well. We built up some relationships with commercial agents. They brought us this deal because the sale had fallen through. Fairly, motivated seller because they'd been, they had a deal fall through and, they were trying to sell it. They needed the funds and those sort of things. So, commercial property in Horwich. So the scheme is basically convert the 2 upper floors. At the time, you could get permitted development as well. The rules have now changed. So we got planning to convert the 2 upper floors to 2 5-bed HMOs. Yeah. And then we keep all the ground floor commercial units to stay as is. Yeah. It was on the market, I think, for 275 or 280 or something like that. And we got it for 231. So like I said, motivated seller, happy to take a discount from a reliable buyer.
And that often happens when a sale falls through.
Yeah.
And remember, 1 in 3 sales in the UK fall through. So a great strategy is to keep in touch with agents. Even if you find something that's technically been sold, 1 in 3 is going to fall through. Yeah. And the seller will sometimes sell for less than the price they previously sold for, just because they need that certainty.
Yeah. And I think, sometime, I think previously it was around about the offer price, but then the person pulled out because it got down valued by a surveyor, which was probably a bit unreasonable anyway. So they just got scared by that and thought it was worth less than they were paying for it, so they pulled out. So yeah. So conversion works for about 190,000 for the 2 5-bed HMOs. So the gross rent ends up being 6,417 a month or thereabouts. So we got basically the 2 commercial units on the bottom. They've ended up getting taken over by one tenant, but they pay for 2 units basically. Yeah, great. The MOT centre has a bike shop which is now out the back. So, and there's also a basement which the wine shop next door rents. So there's 4 lots of income stream from commercial. Plus the 2 5-bed HMOs, so the 10 rooms all up. Fantastic. So end valuation is predicted at 620,000. So my share of the net cash flow after all costs is about 1,247 a month. My share of money left in, again, we worked out a different split with the, because I'm bringing bulk of the sort of project management, building experience, I suppose. So my share ends up being less generally than my joint venture partners. So my money left in, again, there's a little bit in there, but 16,000. So again, my RI is about 94% on that one. So again, it pretty much paid off in a year, roughly. Fantastic. Brilliant. And so just talk us through the summary of what you did on your mastermind journey. Yeah, no worries. Yep. So through the mastermind year, I did 10 property deals. They all required refurbishment. So I sort of did things the hard way to a certain respect, but that's just utilising my expertise
your
and
knowledge. And this is while you're doing a full-time job as well, right?
Yeah.
So this was part-time property investing, 10 deals part-time. That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it would have been hard work. It's not easy, is it?
It's not easy, no.
No.
So I would start work at say 7ish in the morning.
Yeah.
I would dedicate, 2 hours, say, of property.
Yeah.
Just really focus on that, and then after that I'd transition into my day job. A lot of it, obviously, I was working at home, so I had a bit more flexibility with less travel and stuff like that, which that did help. But obviously, it's still difficult to plan out your day and everything like that.
Yeah,
you've got to dedicate the time, I think.
Yes.
So all required refurbishment. So the total worth of all the properties, once all the refurbishments were complete, it's about 3.3 million. Initial purchase price for all the properties 1.95 million or thereabouts. So my share ended up being about 2.15 million of those deals through my mastermind year. So equity for my share is about 580,000. Yeah. Also did a couple of flips, which my share of the profit is about 50 grand for that. So my passive income from the rental return is about 67,000 a year. So about 5,500 a month, which was roughly my salary, ironically. So, and then I also
did you have that goal of replacing your income? Was that a goal? Do you mind sharing what your goal was when you started Mastermind?
Yeah, roughly I did, maybe a little bit higher.
Yeah,
I was trying to push it a bit higher.
Yeah,
but I've exceeded that goal, and with a few deals happening now, I'm going to go, above that goal. My goal sort of went to the end of this year, but it was Mastermind just finished, so roughly about the same. But
yeah, pretty much. Did you? Some of the people set goals. I think that's what I want to get, but they don't quite believe they're going to get there. Did you think you were going to do it, or?
I think I started to believe in the first few sessions of Mastermind. I thought before that there were so many challenges. I thought this is a tough time in the market.
COVID and booming prices. And
market. Because initially I went into Mastermind thinking that there might be a property crash. It might be easier to buy.
Well, we all
deals.
thought that, right?
Obviously that didn't happen. So it sort of got harder. But you just, in that environment and the knowledge you get, you just find ways to get through things, I think.
Yeah.
And if you have your goals and you're motivated enough to work through them, you just keep going. And it's weird to sit back and think, at the time you don't think you're doing that much sometimes, but if you just keep going, you sort of get there. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I mean that's a life-changing result, isn't it? Despite, obviously people say, you've got experience, but still you had a full-time job and a newborn baby. Yeah. And that's a lot to deal with, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It's been challenging.
you've done amazingly well, Tim. I hope everyone's truly inspired by listening to this. Yeah. So I know you've got some tips. So let's use the top tips, and then I want to understand what's the future hold for you as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
No problem. So top tips. Yes, I've talked about it a little bit, but set clear goals, work towards those goals. I think you got to monitor yourself against those. So I look at sort of monthly goals. Yep. And then I assess myself at the end of each month how I've gone, and I try as a minimum to get 80% of those goals. Yeah. Because sometimes you're not going to get everything because of things out of your control or whatever. But I think if you can get 80%, you're doing well. Yeah, Some months I might get a little bit less. I'm like, why has that happened? What have I done? Yeah. But it's a good.
It's great to learn from that, isn't it? Sometimes things don't always work, but there's a lesson there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Great. What has slowed that down, or why haven't I achieved that? What could have I done? Is there anything I could have done? So take action and take action consistently. Like I was saying, like day in, day out, I was getting up in the morning, I was doing lists the night before, I was, trying to really work on that in the mornings and certain times throughout the day, but I was doing it day in, day out, trying to have, enough spare time to spend with the family, but, I was relentlessly working consistently at these goals. Yeah.
And that it is a short-term sacrifice, right? But for massive long-term gain. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Do you have you given up the job now?
I've put my note. Yeah.
You You put the notice in.
Put the notice in. Yeah. So roughly end of the year, I won't be working the day job anymore.
Wow. And how does your wife feel about that?
I think she's nervous and excited and all those sort of things, but yeah.
She's gonna get fed up you around. Well, I suppose you're around the house all the time anyway.
Because we've got used to working at home so much. Yeah. She's probably more used to that than me going to work in the office and things like that. So Yeah.
And what are the plans? What's some tips? I just want to know about you and the family. Actually, we'll talk about tips in a minute. So what are you going to do? What's life hold for you?
Well,
I know you love what you do.
Part of my reason why was because obviously I'm from Australia. I wanted to be able to spend more time. Obviously during lockdown and the border,
you can't actually get back at the moment.
I couldn't actually get back, so I just thought I'll utilise that time, and then when I can go back, hopefully I've got more flexibility that I can spend more time there. So, initially I was thinking, we could do like summer in Australia, summer in England, those sort of things. But it'll probably end up being more time here, less time there. But we've got the options in the future, don't we, to be able to do those sort of things.
And obviously, I know, going to Australia, would you start to get some property in Australia? Do you think?
I was thinking, potentially I could do some deals in Australia if I wanted to.
Because a lot of what we teach is very transferable, isn't it?
It is,
I guess, obviously, the taxation and the finance is slightly different and the terminology is different, but the fundamentals about finding motivated sellers and using other people's money works everywhere, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. As long as, it's not, like you said, as long as you can get return and a good deal.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, let's do these last few tips then.
Right, so next tip, you've got to have patience at the moment. The industry has been booming, it's busy, solicitors are busy. Even lenders are busy, all these contractors are busy, all these sort of things. So you got to have patience in, like, if you keep taking the action consistently, you sort of get there. But if you don't have patience, you can give up too easy, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Which is a real shame. It happens with so many people in property, right? And I guess because they don't have that support and encouragement around them. If you're on your own, you're kind of isolated, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's been a few deals that were challenging to get across the line, but I kept pushing with them, and ultimately that's helped with the success.
Great.
So building a strong power team, we talk about all the time, but mortgage brokers, solicitors, planning consultants, architects, builders, contractors. Contractors are really important because you've got reliable builders. Especially doing so many refurbishment jobs, you need trusted, reliable builders that do good quality in the time frame and to a good cost and all those sort of things. But you can't do all these things yourself, so you need the right team around you to be able to build these portfolios. Work with joint venture partners you're compatible with. I said before, you work out your strengths and weaknesses, what you can offer to the table, what they can offer to the table, and then work with people you're compatible with.
Let's talk about that just for a minute, because I know a joint venture can be whatever you and your partners agree to be. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a 50-50 split. It's completely negotiable. But I guess you're kind of interesting. You bought the deals. Sometimes your partners have bought the deals, but you've had the project managed expertise. Sometimes you put money in, sometimes you haven't. And in the property world, a point I want to get across is that particularly when people are new to property, they worry about not having it and they think the money's more valuable. But actually, if you don't have the deal, well, there's no deal. So I think the deal and the money both have equal value. So what a lot of our students do is they find a deal, they do all the work, and someone else might put all of the money in, and they then do a 50-50 split. And I just want to make the point that there are so many different ways of doing joint ventures. Don't get tunnel vision thinking it has to be like this. It's about meeting people, working out what you're good at, what you can bring to them, what you need, and what they can put in, whether that's money or the deal, whatever. Yeah. And then and it's important to get to know your joint venture partners, really get to like them and resonate with them, isn't it? Yeah, you got to get along with them, don't you? Because you're committing a lot of time and money with that partner, and you got to. And things go wrong sometimes, don't they? Yeah, and you have challenges, don't you? And you've got to work through things. You got to discuss hard, difficult situations that are happening and how to get through them. So you got to be compatible in that respect. You got to get to know them. But I guess if you wouldn't have achieved anywhere near what you've done if you hadn't started working with other people, I guess. No, definitely not. But it's like you said, there's lots of different ways you can do it. Someone can put in the money, you put in the expertise, you find the deal, all those sort of things. Sometimes, it doesn't have to be 100%, 0% with the money. You can work out 3/4 a quarter, but then even your quarter, you could go to another investor to fill the gap. If you want. So you can still do it using none of your own personal money, right? Yeah. But in the deal, technically, it's your sort of share. You put it in. So that's a great point. Brilliant. Okay. Yeah. Any others? Yeah. Sorry. Final one. Yeah. So I suppose raising your profile on social media, because you. Like you said, you run out of money at certain times. You want to find investors, so like I said, we've got sort of a lend and learn program, so that's helped to find investors. Also, people that just
want to invest in your projects, you can offer in return.
Yeah.
Even people that you sort of friends and family, you know, by raising your profile on social media, they can see what you're doing without even talking to them.
Yeah.
And then when you do talk to them, you can go into more detail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it sort of gets people, you know, that you're connected with, seeing what you can do and how successful your projects might be and things like that.
A challenge I see a lot of people have is they don't want to talk about what they're doing on social media. And I think that's because sometimes they feel like they might be seen as they're bragging about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas I say, really, you're just sharing your journey. You're not saying, look at me, you're just saying, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And also sometimes people are worried that, well, what if I say I'm going to do this stuff and then it doesn't work and I look like a failure?
I think like you said, you're showing people what you do, but you're also, you know, if you do it in a way you can help people as well, you're sort of, you know, lots of people have the money in the bank and you can help them get a return. So you're not doing it to brag. You're showing people what you do. So potentially you can help them as well. And
I know you take the opportunity to come and do things like this as raise your profile, and people can look you up on social media. Hey, they might be watching this who might want to work with. I'm sure there are, given your expertise.
Yeah, and connect if you.
Absolutely. And also, you know, speaking at PIN meetings, there were, you know, it's just about trusting the process that we share with you. Raise your profile. These things will all help. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Timothy, thanks so much for sharing. I'm so pleased for you, the results you've had. I know you put a lot of time and effort in, and also you put a lot back into the community, helped other people, and I think that's really kind of paid off for you as well. Thank you for sharing. I just look forward to seeing your future success.
No, thank you, and thanks Andy for everything you guys have done.
Thank you so much, Shane. Let's give Tim a round of applause. Thanks so much, Timothy. Thank you so much. I do hope you got massive value from watching this YouTube video. I'd encourage you to click on the link below to come and do the online training with me. And I've got another video lined up for you, which I think is also going to be really useful, that you should watch once you've registered for the online training with me. So invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you very soon.